Hello, everybody. Welcome to Too Deep in the Queue. My name is Chris Poltrone. We are here. I'm here as always with my MTAF Cleveland counterpart, Anthony Joki. We're here to talk about the Cavs, Cleveland Cavaliers, past and weeks beyond, and all kinds of topics. How are you doing today, Anthony?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to talk some Cavs. Um, would you like to give us your thoughts on the previous week that we had against some opponents?
Yeah, this week was kind of interesting. I mean, we had a big coaching change, and we had a couple wins against a decent team in the Clippers, and then we took care of Brooklyn pretty well. Ended up losing against Chicago the night or the day after the new head coach was announced. Um, I thought we played well for the circumstances. Things appear to be changing in a positive direction from what I've seen on the court. Players are running up and down the court a little faster. They seem to have a sense of urgency, which is what this team has been missing.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, there was a big shakeup this week, and we'll get into more about the Blatt situation. The Clippers game was Blatt's last game as coach. The final was 115 to 102. It was a pretty close game from what I remember, but the end of the game, as we got towards the end of the game, the Cavs started to come on a little more and increase the lead. The so then in between the Clippers and the Chicago game, we ended up having a coaching change. The Chicago game was our new coach Tyronn Lue's first coaching experience in the NBA as a head coach, and we beat Chicago. What was We did not beat Chicago. We lost to Chicago. I'm sorry. We lost 96 to 83. I had that backwards when I was writing that. Sorry. So the Chicago game I'd like to talk about a little bit briefly because we had no bench scoring for the Chicago game. There was nobody on the bench that scored over 5 points. I thought that was kind of ridiculous. LeBron came on, had a great game, 26 points, 13 rebounds, 9 assists, almost a triple-double. And he took 27 shots, so that means he was taking the lion's share of shots for our offense, and we just can't be that one-dimensional. What did you think about that Chicago game, the first game of Lue's head coaching career?
Well, it was just an awful shooting night all around. I mean, they could have hit the broadside of a barn. Their first bench points came at the end of the third quarter when Delly hit that three with about 1 second left on the clock. I mean, that's just absolutely unacceptable between him, Tristan Thompson, and Shumpert. You have to get some kind of production off your bench, and what they got that night was pitiful, to say the least.
Yeah, it was surprising because our bench has been a strong point for us previously in the season, but this night, Saturday night in Chicago, it was unexpected that it was as bad as it was to me. JR actually filled up more than one stat column in that game. He had 18 points and 11 rebounds. I was very happy with that. He's been a great scorer for us, but he has not really filled up the rebounds, assists category. He's not really known for that. But I was glad to see him get a double-double. That doesn't happen too often. Kyrie only 5 for 16, 11 points. We got to do a lot better. What did you think about the Minnesota game that was just a couple of nights back?
No, they played well. They played an all-around game. They pushed the ball a little bit better. You could see what they're trying to do, and that's get everyone involved a little more. I mean, they gave up some points defensively, but I'll take that if the offense is finally going to click like it needs to.
Yeah, I'm seeing Karl Anthony Towns with 26, 11, and 4. So that obviously was a defensive, but he's a great player. He's going to get some points. But the having Tristan back in the starting lineup, 19 points, 12 rebounds is fantastic. That I missed him in the starting lineup. I was a little upset when Mozgov went back in, and I would prefer to have him. And I think Lou even said he would prefer to have him in the. He gives a good energy to the starting lineup. So I hope that continues. And see Delly, 18 points, 4 rebounds, 7 assists off the bench. That's more like what we expect from Delly. That is what I can get behind from bench performance. So let's. So Friday was very interesting for both of us. I guess it was probably about 4:00. We got notification from Woj, Adrian Wojnarowski from Yahoo Sports, that the Yahoo sources, as they like to claim, that David Blatt had been fired. Now, that was quite a shock to me. I know we talked about it that night through Twitter. It was quite a shock to you too, I believe. What was going through your head when you saw those tweets?
When those tweets came across, I probably can't repeat what I was thinking, but I was very confused, and for someone who's very vocal about the Cavs, it kind of left me speechless. They completely came out of left field with what they were doing, and just a few minutes later, they had announced that Lou was taking over. I mean, they wasted no time whatsoever firing Blatt and then promoting Lou. It was just a complete shock to me.
The fact that they got both of those announcements out at essentially the same time kind of feels like to me that it was something that was on Griffin's mind already. Typically, you see an interim coach appointed, and then they have a process and they talk to people, and they typically will make a decision at that point. They were, if you remember, Anthony, in 2014 when they were looking for a new head coach, Lou was seriously considered as the head coach. In fact, I believe that Griffin even favored Tyronn Lue for the position, and Dan Gilbert was more in the David Blatt column. So I think perhaps Griffin acquiesced a little to the owner, which, hey, I can't blame him for that. But the ended up being hired Blatt. Blatt got hired. Lue was the backup coach, or I guess he was probably the closest coach to being the head coach. I think there were certain duties that he was given and he was allowed to do that maybe not all assistant coaches end up with. But what do you think that they made the right choice hiring Blatt originally, or should they have just hired Lue from the get-go and we'd have more autonomy with the team and not such broken up coaching philosophies?
Well, when they hired Blatt, they had no idea that LeBron was coming home. Blatt was coming here, and he thought he was going to be coaching Andrew Wiggins, Anthony Bennett, Kyrie Irving, and Tristan Thompson. That was the core he was going to be coaching up. When LeBron announced he was coming home, things completely changed. I mean, out goes Anthony Bennett, out goes Andrew Wiggins, in comes LeBron, in comes Kevin Love. So the team dynamic just changed completely. And, with Lue being the associate head coach, which I believe was his title when they brought him in, he was the highest paid associate head coach in the NBA. They wanted him that much and to not lose him to another team that they decided to pay him a whole bunch of money because they really liked him as well with Blatt, and they thought that Blatt's offense would mesh well with Lue's defensive mind, and they thought that they would work well together. And for the first year, it did. But what you've heard is that players really weren't listening to Blatt. They were more listening to Lue, and that's something that Lue has had experience doing under Doc Rivers. When Lue transitioned from being a player to being a coach, he was under Rivers in Boston, And what Lou said in an interview yesterday is that Doc Rivers gave him the authority to challenge players. He gave them the authority to challenge Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Rajon Rondo, and hold them accountable. So, he's had experience holding superstars accountable on the team as an assistant coach. Now, it's just, I can't wait to see what he does as a head coach holding these players accountable.
Yeah. What did you think of Griffin's statement when he made it that night? I believe, the gist of his press conference was that he felt that the locker room was not solidified or galvanized, I think may have even been the word that he used, under Blatt, and that they felt that it was almost a point of no return with the culture of the team and the team dynamic, and that they felt that what they had with Blatt at the helm was not a team that could improve from what we did last year. Maybe we could still make it to the finals, but I think he didn't feel that the team was capable of beating a San Antonio or a Golden State in the finals. What do you think of that? Is that the dynamic? Do you think there were other factors? Do you get a sense that there were other factors that he may not have expounded upon in the press conference?
Well, he covered a lot in the press conference, and when it came to Blatt, he pulled the bus up, ran over Blatt, backed it up, ran over Blatt again, backed it up, ran over Blatt again. I mean, he laid into Blatt and the rest of the team. He said that basically we're not playing good enough, and he put it all out there in that press conference. He challenged the players to play better. He challenged the coaches to do a better job. He kind of put everyone on notice that if things aren't the way they need to be in order to win a championship, things will change. And he has no problem whatsoever doing the things he needs to do to bring a championship here.
I was impressed with his, even though I was a little shocked with the decision, I was impressed with the reasoning that he gave and his willingness to say, look, I'm making the decisions. I'm going to live and die by these decisions. I know this is a big decision, but this is what we're going with. He's ready to put. He's ready. He's willing to take the responsibility for those large scale decisions to try to move the team forward. So I give him credit for that. I'm not 100% sure if it was the right time to do it. I guess we'll find out as the Cavs go along. But the dynamic of the team has changed. I hope that the locker room has changed. I haven't heard anything from the locker room yet, any locker room reports. But what I did hear Lou say, I don't know if it was earlier today or yesterday, that he wants the team to be. He wanted to focus on being in shape. He wants to talk about. He wants to have the team be able to be in physical shape to play in the playoffs. Did you get anything else out of that? Was that a knock on the team for not quite being in shape, or was he just talking about the what's needed to compete in 7-game series against top elite NBA teams?
I mean, there's obviously players who aren't in shape. I mean, Kyrie's just coming back from injury. Love was out all summer dealing with that shoulder. It's coming back, and I would imagine that their training had to take a step back just because that they were out with an injury. They weren't able to go as hard in their training, and they're probably not in the best of shape as they could be. I mean, we all know what LeBron does in the offseason. His workouts are ridiculous. Yeah. If you follow him on Instagram, they're just insane what he does to prepare his body for the season. Now, in terms of other players on their team not being in shape, I'm kind of curious who he's alluding to. Maybe it's Thompson will, or maybe it's JR. Just, we know the kind of person JR is.
Yeah, he's been known to be seen after games riding his hoverboard with the beer in his hand around the arena. So that takes a lot.
Thankfully, they banned those things so we don't get a freak injury.
Right. Yeah.
Complete Cleveland thing to happen.
Okay. let's talk a little bit about the week ahead. We are playing Phoenix on Wednesday evening. I'm excited to see that game because the Phoenix Suns like to run the court, and I think we'll get a good idea. I think they're the fourth. They have the fourth highest possessions per game in the league, so they will run and they will test that vaunted endurance that Lou might have been alluding to. We also have Detroit, which plays us tough. Andre Drummond is a rebounding nightmare. The guy's just an insane rebounder. And then San Antonio, again, coming to the queue. I'm excited for that. What are your thoughts about any and all of those matchups upcoming for the week, Anthony?
We should be able to take care of business against Phoenix and Detroit. I mean, they're okay teams. They're not the best, but Detroit will obviously be a little more challenged than Phoenix will be. But Phoenix, like you said, they do run. They like to get up and down the court, and we can get into the same situation that we did against Minnesota the other night. They like to shoot the ball quickly. As I mentioned, they run up and down the court pretty quick. So, you can get into a shooting duel with them, and that's probably not something you want to do. You want to maybe slow it down a hair, but you still want to get out, beat them in transition, and score quickly on them. As far as Detroit goes, are you ready to see Hackett Drummond again? Because it's coming. I believe last week he set an NBA record for 26 misses in a game at the free throw line. That's absolutely crazy. So you'll definitely see Hackett Drummond. As far as San Antonio goes, I'm excited to see this game, but I really won't take too much from it because I'm going to guess that Popovich is going to rest a couple players on this Saturday night when we play them. He did it the other night against Golden State. I don't know if you heard him after the game, but they got blown out by 30 points.
Yeah, I heard.
He made the comment, "Well, I'm glad my GM wasn't here, otherwise I might have gotten fired."
And all the reporters were like, "What?" They were all confused. He's like, "You don't get it? Forget it."
Yeah, I mean, he has an interesting sense of humor, and I like his sense of humor regardless of how he is with the media. I mean, he's a funny guy, but they should be able to compete with them, and they should be able to beat them. But it all depends on who they sit and if they end up playing everyone or not.
I'm worried a little bit about. I think Detroit has a chance to beat us. They have some decent scorers, and Reggie Jackson is one that can score. San Antonio will be on a back-to-back from Detroit, so that could certainly affect our stamina and focus in that game. It is a nationally televised game, the second Saturday in a row for us. So that's something that we need to be careful of. And like you said, you're not putting too much emphasis on that win. If San Antonio doesn't play all their starters full minutes. I believe beyond that we've got Indiana and Charlotte. Indiana is a team that we've had a lot of trouble with Indiana in the past. I remember last season, Indiana was the team I did not want to play. There was something about the way they matched up with us that we just had a very difficult time with their style. I was really hoping to avoid having to play them in the first round of the playoffs. I did not want to play them, and they didn't end up making the playoffs last year. But anytime we play Indiana, I pay attention because they play us very hard. And what do you think about the matchup against Charlotte?
Like you said, Indiana is always a tough team. Paul George has come back from that nasty injury, and he's played so well. There's no doubt that he's going to win comeback player of the year this year. He's really come back from that awful injury and has led that team to a decent record. I don't know if they're above 500 or not, but they're pretty close. They're in the eighth seed in the East right now, and they're decent. If the season were to end today, we would play them in the first round, and I would not be thrilled about it. They have a good rookie, Miles Turner, out of Texas. They, he could be a force to be reckoned with in the paint. He also has an outside shot as well that can hurt you. He's going to force Kevin Love and Tristan Thompson to come out from under the basket and to guard him. As far as Charlotte goes, they're awful, to say the least.
Philadelphia played us tough a couple weeks ago.
True, that is true. Charlotte has been rebuilding ever since Michael Jordan bought the team. They have a couple nice players. I like Kid Gilchrist. I was kind of hoping that they would draft him in 1 year, but thankfully we didn't. Considering we were able to get LeBron back, but they're a bad team, but like you said, they can be competitive on some nights, and if you're not paying attention and if you're not playing to the level of your competition, they can hang with you all game, and that's the kind of game you don't want against those kinds of teams. Ones that they hang with you all game and they have a shot at the end to beat you.
Yeah, the teams that have bad records, when you get to play the number one team, what do you have to lose? Leave it all out there. There is something dangerous about a team that has nothing to lose and is just playing almost for fun. That is sometimes that's freeing in a way that those teams have an advantage because we're very focused on making sure we beat the teams we're supposed to beat. They could win, they could lose. If they win, oh my gosh, that's huge. If they lose, they were supposed to lose. So the pressure is definitely off of those teams. So I think that's a big bonus for them when we come to town or they come to the Q. Okay, that will do it for the Too Deep in the Q for this week. I am Chris Poltrone. My Twitter handle is
Wine and Gold.
Oh, Wine and Gold. Sorry. Wine and Gold segment. This is the segment where we, Anthony and I both have something that we would like to whine about and something that we think was gold this week. Anthony, why don't you go ahead and start? I'll give you the opportunity to set the table for the Wine and Gold this week.
Well, I'll start out with my wine, and you and I like to write a lot. We like to give our opinions on the Cavs, and we like to let our voices be heard. I can't stand these so-called people who have sources that say things are so awful in a locker room. You get non-professional people who claim they have sources about how things are really going in a locker room, and this was happening with Blatt. He was so awful. He didn't listen to anyone. He wanted to do his own thing. LeBron didn't want to listen to Blatt at all. It's just a bunch of garbage, and it really bugs me from time to time. But like I said, it is really annoying to me.
My wine this week isn't terribly original, but that whole Chicago game, there wasn't really much that they did well. They allowed Pau to almost have a triple-double. Our defense was bad. Our focus was bad. They out-hustled us. They outshot us. Mirotic had 17 off the bench against us, and that was more than all of our bench players combined, I think. So that was quite a letdown, especially in a nationally televised game. With obviously there were a lot of folks that showed up to watch the game just to see what would happen in the aftermath of the Blatt firing. So I think we kind of probably looked bad in front of the national audience there. So I wish that they had done a little better against Chicago. What's your gold moment for the week, Anthony?
My gold moment for this week is David Griffin press conference. We talked about it earlier. He held back nothing. He let the team have it. He let the coaches have it, and he basically said that we need to play better. We need to do this better. We need to do that better. And I'm really looking forward to see how the team responds to that. And as I had mentioned before, that if things don't get better, changes will come, whether that can include trading a couple key pieces or a couple other things. But I'm really looking forward to see how this progresses from now on.
To add to my wine just a little bit, in terms of that Chicago game, our free throw shooting was abysmal. It was an embarrassment. If I say two more about that, it won't remain family friendly. My gold was our offensive performance against Minnesota, our rebound performance. All the starters had double digits. I mentioned Tristan with a double-double in the starting lineup, 19 points, 12 rebounds. Delhi, 18 points off the bench. So we got double digits off of our entire starting lineup plus one player off the bench. So that is a formula for success. I know we ended up having to outlast Minnesota. They played a decent game. Our defense wasn't that great. But if we can do that offensively and stick to our defense, I think that is a pretty good formula for winning in this league, especially against the teams that are ahead of us on the schedule. As you guys as the audience may or may not know, Anthony and I both write for MTA of Cleveland, for obviously for the Cavaliers. It would be very strange if we wrote for the anything else. What do you have on the way? Do you have any commentary you're going to add this week, Anthony? Anything you got in store for the listeners?
Yeah, I'm working on something. The trade deadline is coming up in a few weeks, so I'm going to be analyzing potential targets for the Cavs. A few people that they could add to this team to help make them better. So there's a few players out there where we could use the trade exception on, and not have to give up too much in return just because these teams are going to want to cut salary. I don't want to spoil it too much, but
sure.
There's a couple players out there that can be really beneficial to this team in a backup role-playing role.
Awesome. This week, I think I'm going to focus on the general aftermath of the Blatt firing. What is different? What is still the same, and what we need to focus on in order to compete against these teams, these elite West teams. I'm excited, but cautiously excited for the future of this team. I kind of felt very good, and I knew where we were going before the Blatt thing, but changing coaches has thrown me for a loop, and I guess I'm still trying to find my footing in terms of what to expect from this team. Anthony and I, we a lot of times will take over the MTAF Cleveland Twitter handle, and we will live tweet during most of the games. So I encourage everybody to check out, follow at MTAF Cleveland, and also Anthony and myself. I am at SCSA0096, and Anthony is at Anthony Joki, ANTHONYJOKI. And you can hit us up anytime on Twitter. I'd love to talk about anything. I'm sure Anthony would love to talk about the Cavs. And we'd like to thank everybody for listening. And we hope you guys have a fantastic week. And we'll talk to you next week. Signing off, this is Chris Poltrone. And thank you very much. We'll talk to you guys next time. Too deep in the queue.